2018 has been a pretty amazing year for video games. God of War rocked up and blew everyone away, Spider-Man delivered one of the best web-slinger gaming experiences since Spider-Man 2, Celeste was physically and emotionally challenging, Red Dead Redemption 2 raised the bar even further in terms of game design and storytelling, and my personal favourite, Tetris Effect, went to show that a series as old as what feels like gaming itself still has some pretty amazing directions it could go. However, not everything has been as smooth as turning anti-aliasing all the way up. As with trade shows, developer conferences, new features added to consoles and new game releases, things don't always go to plan. From frowned upon business practices to games quite literally being unplayable, 2018 has had its fair share of moments that will either make your blood boil or make you laugh uncontrollably. Either way, you'll be spouting 3 words each time. What the f***? I'm Rich from WhatCulture Gaming, and these are 12 of the most WTF moments the gaming industry had to offer in 2018. Number 12. Telltale Games goes bust. This was something nobody saw coming, not even the workforce stuck in the middle of it. In September 2018, Telltale Games, the folks behind The Walking Dead amongst other things, announced that 90% of their workforce were being made redundant amidst a majority studio closure, ending up with only 25 folk remaining to form a skeleton team to close up their remaining projects. Now this sounds pretty bad, but it gets worse. Alongside the lack of any warning, the employees had only 30 minutes to pack up their things and vacate the office after hearing of their demise, with no severance pay just to seal the horrid deal. As such, any games in development at Telltale have been cancelled, including new seasons of The Wolf Among Us, Game of Thrones, and a Stranger Things game. As for The Walking Dead's final season, a deal has been struck with Skybound Games to finish the project, so at least we'll get that. Telltale filed for bankruptcy on November the 14th. For a company we thought from the outside to be indestructible, was hemorrhaging from the inside. Mismanagement was a huge factor in Telltale's demise, along with a large but still finite number of people spread too thinly across many projects, many of which were nowhere near as profitable as we first thought. Number 11. Sony decides to skip E3 2019. E3 has been starting to lose relevance and momentum over the last few years. With some relatively mediocre presentations this year, Sony, of all people, had decided to withdraw from appearing at E3 2019. It was quite a shock to many a gamer's system, and alongside them also skipping PSX in late 2018, it looks to be that Sony are done with this generation and are quietly gearing up for the next. Of course, this doesn't mean the PS4 is being forgotten about for the next year or two. We still have some pretty good titles for the system on the way, including The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and Death Stranding. That is, of course, they're actually being made for the PS4 and not for whatever comes next. As for whatever comes next, we're thinking we'll be hearing about the PlayStation 5 toward the tail end of 2019 or early 2020. I'm pretty sure, though, none of us can wait. Number 10. Rockstar Games' controversial work culture. Even after delivering one of the most engrossing and technically astonishing video game experiences of the generation, didn't mean we all just forgot about Kotaku's Jason Schreier posting a devastating article about the brutal culture present at the majority of Rockstar's worldwide offices prior to Red Dead Redemption 2's release. With reports of some employees working excessive overtime, the majority of it unpaid, Rockstar ended up underneath a ton of press and fan scrutiny, with the main discussion revolving around the ethics of even purchasing the final game. More broadly though, it opened up a dialogue about the necessity of this final crunch, video game development cycles, the toxic potential of a workaholic mindset, and how harmful all of this is to the industry at large. Of course, as much as this wasn't entirely forgotten, most of the fire died down upon Red Dead 2's release simply because it is a masterpiece. There is hope, however, that this won't happen again, and that Rockstar will rejig their practices when it comes to developing their next big title, which I'm pretty sure is already underway, and I'm also pretty sure is going to be Grand Theft Auto 6. Number 9. Nintendo Switch Online is a joke. After a roaring 18 months of pretty much nothing but love, the Nintendo Switch had its first release that turned away some heads, the paid online service. I've already blathered on about this in a list from a few months ago, cough, shameless plug, cough, but Nintendo's approach to this paid subscription service didn't quite sit well with everyone. Taking multiplayer from its free state to being dumped behind a paywall was a start, but adding features simply expected from modern video game systems behind said paywall didn't make the usually pretty squeaky clean Nintendo look so good. Along with a spluttering of NES games as some kind of half-baked replacement for Virtual Console, cloud saves available for if your console conks out and dies, but not for every title, some pretty bland exclusive deals, and a mediocre mobile app for voice chat in place of, native voice chat like on every other system. Come on, Nintendo, we don't expect this from you. Even at only about 18 quid for the year, it's not exactly a steep paywall, but it did see many Nintendo fans feeling pretty short-changed. Number 8, the Spider-Man marriage proposal debacle. Insomniac's Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4 is one of the best games of the year. Tight, enjoyable, and emotional in some places, it was a great time, and swinging around a huge, living, breathing New York City was simply exhilarating. With a map so large and lively, there were a plethora of Easter eggs and references to sink your teeth into. From Avengers Tower to Nelson and Murdoch to the Wakandan Embassy to Josie's Bar, you couldn't turn a corner without bumping into something relevant. One Easter egg that will tug at your heartstrings and then proceed to use them to strap you into the train on this emotional roller coaster was on the surface, a rather sweet proposal from a fan of the game, Tyler Schultz, to his partner, Maddie. Once the egg was discovered and spread around the internet, Tyler himself came forward to fill Spidey fans in on what went down, and it's pretty nasty. It turns out that 3 weeks prior to the game's release, Maddie had broken up with him after, hold on to your butts, sleeping with his brother. Ouch. The collective fandom then made a dick move and harassed Maddie's side of the story from her, eventually bringing the reveal that her and Tyler had indeed broken up, but the whole brother shagging bit was a lie. Not as spicy as we first thought, but poor guy. Eventually, Insomniac patched out what has now been coined the world's saddest Easter egg. Number 7, Blizzard's embarrassing Diablo Immortal announcement. After masses of hype began circulating among fans, many people watching or attending BlizzCon 2018 were expecting something epic. Diablo 4 was slated to be announced to the event, but what fans got instead was something completely different, and it was incredibly unwelcome. Diablo Immortal was on its way. I mean, this could have been a named sequel instead of a numbered one. We've got Doom Eternal coming, so this could be more of the same? Well, for a series best known as a PC staple, Diablo Immortal was coming to mobile, and only mobile. Some incredibly huge balls on Blizzard there. No surprises, this wasn't received well at all. During a post-reveal Q&A, principal designer Wyatt Cheng took to the stage in the presence of hundreds of growling PC players, only to be met with numerous boos throughout, and eventually blurted the now legendary phrase, "Do you guys not have phones?" Safe to say, hype managed to dip below absolute zero for Diablo Immortal after BlizzCon, with some players boycotting the game entirely or even calling for it to be cancelled outright. It does make sense since this was far from what fans wanted. I mean, I'd be fuming if Half-Life 3 ended up being a match 3 mobile game, but then it raises the debate as to whether fans should be able to dictate where a series goes. I wouldn't mind Valve actually working on the aforementioned Half-Life 3, but at the end of the day, it's not up to me. Number 6, Sony delivers a lackluster PlayStation classic. After a year or two of the mini retro console being king, Sony decided to throw their hat into the ring with their take on the PlayStation Classic, an adorably small version of their PS1 console, rocking 20 games inside and 2 controllers to boot. It sounds pretty great, right? The NES and SNES Classic consoles were selling like hotcakes, but with this one, something felt a bit off. As reviews began to emerge prior to its full worldwide release, it became known that Sony had created a relatively naff attempt at cashing in on 90s nostalgia. The lineup of 20 games were rather lackluster and oddly selected too. The legendary likes of Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, Grand Theft Auto and Oddworld were rubbing grubby shoulders with Intelligent Cube and Mr. Driller. Tekken 3 also made the cut. Oh, did Tekken 3 make the cut? Every lunchtime we're getting trounced by resident video game encyclopedia Scott Telford, but the likes of Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing and Spyro the Dragon were absent, which was most likely to not detract sales from their remasters, but even things like the original Tomb Raider weren't present either, yet they were apparently there during the testing phase of the product. It's not been a rocky launch per se, it's just not really been selling. With only the PAL versions of the games included worldwide, which admittedly we Brits are used to anyway, it's not a huge surprise this product with incredible potential didn't work. Number 5, Command & Conquer finally returns. As a mobile game nobody wants. It's the year of naff AAA mobile games. This time it's EA in the spotlight. EA at E3 is always nothing but a cringe fest, accompanied by an audience who have collectively had an enthusiasm bypass, but this year was special for one particular game. Command & Conquer, the legendary RTS, was making a comeback. Awesome. As a mobile game, suddenly not awesome. fans dedicated to the series were quite rightly livid after seeing their beloved franchise dumbed down into a mobile game full to the brim with microtransactions. To make matters worse, during the reveal, we were treated to a 1v1 match on this Command & Conquer Rivals title with cringy shoutcasters and all. The game released in early December and the reviews left it for dead. It was heavily criticised as a butchering of the series' name and legacy, of course, but the biggest complaint was how aggressive and predatory the microtransaction systems were. I mean, it's a mobile game published by EA, what else were you expecting? As for those Command & Conquer fans, I do hope you get your PC fixed sometime soon. Number 4. Square Enix cancels Final Fantasy XV DLC and Hajime Tabata resigns. It's been an interesting year for Square Enix. From the huge hype of Kingdom Hearts 3 being playable, to the deflatingly average Shadow of the Tomb Raider, to their truly awful E3 presentation, it's been a turbulent year. However, when early November rolled around, Square brought themselves another blow. With a livestream supposedly outlining exciting Final Fantasy XV news, it turned out that 3 of the 4 DLCs for said Final Fantasy XV had been cancelled. Good start. To follow up, Square further kicked their fans while they were down with the announcement that the director of Final Fantasy XV, Hajime Tabata, apologies if I've butchered that, who took over in 2014 and is widely credited with, inverted commas, fixing the game, had left the company. Though the announcement was framed in such a way that he'd left to take on other projects, fans were pretty sure he was edged out by management. He did land on his feet at least, starting a brand new studio, JP Games. Number 3. Sony holds Fortnite accounts hostage. As much as Sony have been crushing it in terms of exclusive titles this year, there's one thing they've been up to that's been pretty poorly received by gamers, press, developers and publishers alike. Sony's reluctance for cross-platform play has baffled everyone. After Fortnite was released on the Switch, it was added to the cross-platform pool already occupied by Xbox One, PC, Mac, and even mobile. Everyone was looking at Sony waiting for them to join the proverbial party, but they were quite happy where they were stood. To poke the bear a little, Microsoft and Nintendo threw out a little ditty about how awesome Minecraft crossplay is between the Switch and Xbox. All the while, Sony were locking down players' Epic accounts to the PS4, so no cosmetics or progression could be taken onto any other platform except the PS4. For the millions who play Fortnite, that doesn't really sit well. After a barrage of fan and press scrutiny, Sony finally buckled in late September, opening up crossplay with everything else. Being for the players wasn't really present here. Number 2. Fallout 76 gets panned by fans and critics. Okay, before I get on with this, I don't hate Fallout 76. I've had a great time with it. I won't dive into the details here, so go and watch Chatty Faces number 21. I outlined it all there. This is becoming a list of nothing but shameless plugs, and I'm not sorry. Anywho, a multiplayer title in one of the most incredible worlds in gaming? How could this be a failure? Well, if anyone could manage to balls it up this much, it's Bethesda. It was instantly torn to shreds upon release by pretty much everyone for its empty world, devoid of NPCs that aren't Mr. Handleys or Protectrons, piecemeal story, lack of mission variety, always online connectivity, and most of all, just how bloody broken this thing was. While it's fun to play with a bunch of friends, going into this world solo is a pretty dull experience, unless you're me and you spend far too much time building a sick cabin by an abandoned theme park, because of course I did. All of this negativity led to 76's sales tanking, and the subsequent price cuts were pretty frequent. Not only that, but the duffel bag promised with the special edition of the game ended up being a crap nylon thing, leading to the brilliantly named duffel kerfuffle and Bethesda sending out actual duffel bags to those who bought said special edition. It is a colossal PR blunder for a studio that has coasted on fan goodwill and a pretty pants engine for far too long. Since Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6 will be most likely running on this engine, as much as the hype was pretty high at E3, after this big old blunder, suddenly we're not too excited. And number 1, Ninja refuses to stream with women and wins Content Creator of the Year. Twitch's most followed streamer Ninja kicked up a fuss this summer when he declared that you'll never see him streaming with a woman. Irrelevant of context, on a platform as big as Twitch, that's something you probably shouldn't say. Apparently this was for the sake of his marriage, as he's concerned that rumours will circulate if he's, I guess, merely seen with another woman. These comments were heavily opposed by practically everyone. Prominent streamers, both male and female, the press and gamers alike, were all pretty outraged about it. Ninja did attempt to further clarify these comments, citing concerns of online harassment, though many were quite rightly unconvinced. These were comments you don't make when you're on top of the world with such an influence over this side of the industry. The controversy did die down for a while, but then the Game Awards came about, with Ninja being nominated for and eventually winning Content Creator of the Year. Some felt it was pretty tone deaf for Jeff Keighley to grant Ninja this further platform of influence, considering his comments, and this award should have really gone to someone putting positivity back into the industry, not to someone with nothing but controversy and numbers behind him. And there we have it. What industry cock-ups had you completely baffled and reaching for the refund policy? Let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to WhatCulture Gaming as we post new videos every single day. I've been Rich, you can follow me on Twitter at PickupChangeToe, and we'll see you tomorrow.